What's up, guys? Two banks of five back again today with another short one. What's going on with Manchester City? That is the question right now. 14 points behind Liverpool in the Premier League. They've really struggled lately. Really struggled. And you could say it's down to injuries or lack of leaders, which I've said before, but something else seems to be systematically wrong at the club. I've said numerous times I think City could only benefit from putting Fernandinho back in his defensive midfield role just till they get some wins on the board and Laporte comes back, and maybe just trust Stones and Otamendi in there as a defensive partnership, or even put Kyle Walker in the centre backs like I've stated before. It's not going to be the greatest, but I think one thing we're seeing with Man City this year is they are conceding a lot more chances. And I think that's because teams are easily able to counter-attack on them. And Fernandinho last year was the man to break down those counter-attacks and keep Man City flowing with the ball. Aguero's obviously injured and Jesus isn't performing that well. He scored a few goals against Burnley. But he's just not Aguero. And I think City are going to have to do a massive restructure next season. A lot of their players are in their 30s and starting to decline. Silva, Fernandinho in their mid-30s nearly. So for a midfielder in a Guardiola side, that's starting to look a bit suspicious. I think players like Aguero, who are 31, have a few more years left in them, but at the top. But I think once you hit 33, 34, no science can stop you from declining unless you're a freak like Ronaldo or Messi. But yeah, I think City now have to turn their attention to the Champions League and just qualifying for the top four. They'll make top four easily. They'll probably still finish second. But I think the Premier League's definitely over for them. Unless Liverpool have a mighty collapse, which I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm not calling anything until it's mathematically done. But it must be so demoralising for City to have such a poor start to the season and see Liverpool and Leicester playing so well and being so consistent. The good news for City is there's only one way to go, and that's up. I believe... I'm not sure who they play this weekend. I'm really not sure. I couldn't tell you. I'll do that in the Premier League preview. Arsenal. Arsenal just beat West Ham this morning. So it is possible Arsenal could get a result, but Arsenal and City are probably not performing the way they'd want to right now. So definitely that could be a big game for City this weekend. I just think to not replace Kompany in the summer is one of the biggest transfer mistakes all season. Your captain, your leader, and I'd probably say a legend of Manchester City, to take him out and not replace him is just shocking. It's unbelievable, to be honest. It's just like Van Dijk coming out. It's hard. Van Dijk was so imperative to that team, to Liverpool. It's like James Milner coming out of the Liverpool team. Didn't play every week, but you always feel like he's in there for the big games. Klopp's said it numerous times. He helps him with team talks. He's motivating. He's there for the young players. He's supportive. And I think that's what Kompany would have been to those Manchester City players. And to take him out definitely has affected City. And I think it's just a knock-on effect. No Laporte means no Fernandinho in the defensive mid-role. No Kompany to back up. So Fernandinho drops to back up for Laporte and Kompany. Rodri is not ready for that system yet. I think he is a good player, a quality player, but he's just not ready to perform in that system. It's a bit like Fabinho last season. And then because of that, Bernardo Silva isn't able to tuck into that midfield position, which he likes to occupy. And it means Mahrez is playing a lot more games. And definitely Aguero missing, means they don't have as much depth at the moment. The other thing is Leroy Sané was a great player off the bench. I remember whenever I watched City and Leroy Sané would come on, I would just be so annoyed, especially if City were down or just trying to stay in the game. It's quite frustrating. So they're definitely missing a lot of players this season, a lot of injuries. But at the same time, I don't think Pep Guardiola and his side have done anything to help themselves. Where do I see them finishing now? Probably second or third. I think the game against Leicester, not this week, next week, will be a big one. And for the first time ever, I'm actually thinking I would rather City win than Leicester. Maybe even a draw. A draw would suit both. Would suit us. I just think City need a big rebuild in the summer, and whether Pep Guardiola will stick around for that, I'm not sure. He's the sort of guy who builds his squad. A lot like Mourinho, that third year crash, fourth year crash, and then all of a sudden, he's looking for another job. Whether City are willing to invest the same amount of money they can, and even if they can with FFP down their throats at the moment, maybe they can't invest so much into the club right now. It's definitely time to start looking at their younger players though. Phil Foden definitely has to get a game. And their centre-back, I can't remember his name, they should start playing him as well, I think. They will get top 4. I think it's time to rest players and focus on the Champions League. Of course, I'm saying as a Liverpool fan, you might be thinking, but 14 points is a lot to catch up. Even though there's 22, 23 games left, that's still a lot to catch up if Liverpool are going to keep performing the way they do. If City win all their games, they can only get the same points they got last season, which is crazy to think at this point. And I think City should really focus on getting that Champions League title because it might be the last time they can do it with this squad. They've still got an amazing team. I just think if you give rest to the likes of David Silva in the Premier League matches and stuff, to Aguero, give rest there. Let Jesus play the Premier League games. Then you can see a strong Manchester City side playing in the Champions League. And to be fair, this is probably the best year they can do it. A lot of other teams are struggling. Barcelona defensively struggling. Real Madrid are hot and cold. Juventus are struggling as well. Bayern Munich are probably, besides Liverpool, the best. And even they had a bad result the weekend. Bayern Munich are performing in the Champions League. So it's pretty much anyone's year this year. And this might be the best chance for Manchester City, especially since Liverpool will be focusing on the Premier League. They've won the Champions League last year. And you may think that Liverpool will take their sights off the Champions League a bit to get the Premier League done, to get the Club World Cup done, and maybe have a go with their youth at one of the domestic comps. Who should City sign in the summer? They definitely need a backup for Aguero or a new player for Aguero. Defensive mid, I think Rodri will be fine, but there's rumours Fernandinho is going to go. They need another centre-back and a left-back. Mendy's too injury prone. Zinchenko was very good, but he's been injured lately. And Angelino's just not cut the mustard there. Kyle Walker is struggling a bit. Maybe it's time he moves into that centre-back role. He obviously played at the right of the centre-backs in the English squad, so we could see him there. Right back, Cancelo's a great player. I don't understand why he doesn't play more. Pep might not trust him yet. In the midfield, obviously De Bruyne is here to stay. Rodri and Gundogan would probably be their best midfield three moving forward. But I think City should look at someone like Kai Havertz, a technical footballer like Silva to come in that position. Even if Guardiola could get a tune out of Isco, it would be a good buy. Up front, they definitely need a new signing. And like I said, I think the old City would pump out the cash for a big striker. Unfortunately, right now, I think FFP is pretty solid on Manchester City, and maybe that's why they're not prepared to spend big. But anyway, guys, I'll probably leave it at that for now. I might come back later with a little bit of talk on the Dortmund Inter Milan scenario. Anyway, guys, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.